2024 has just come to an end, and tomorrow is a new year. It's time for me to rank my top 25 roller coasters that I've ridden. Now, last year I did this style of video. I did top 10 favorite roller coasters that I've ridden, and that video was just absolutely dog water. So once every year, I'm gonna keep re-releasing my top 25 roller coasters because my list is gonna continue to change. Let's go ahead and get started. At number 25, we have Afterburn at Carowinds. Now, Afterburn seems like just a B&M invert on paper, but it is really an intense ride. Like, most of the ride, I'm grayed out usually. Like, it's just ridiculous. It's whippy, it's fast, it's forceful, and that bat wing is just so intense. It's wild. It's just a great ride overall. Next on the list, we have another B&M looper, Kumba at Busch Gardens Tampa. Now, it's been years since I've ridden Kumba, and I really do need a re-ride on it. But from what I can remember, it is a super intense B&M looper. Like, I remember I was young, really young when I rode it, and I had a hard time even standing its forces. And I remember that 0G roll was just insanely whippy. Up next on the list, we have another B&M looper, and it's in the same park, Montu at Busch Gardens. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because it has the same exact really intense first half that Afterburn has with the same exact batwing, but Montu has a second half with an additional like 5 elements. I think it has an extra vertical loop, a couple like overbank turns, just some high-speed transitions, and I'm pretty sure it has an extra corkscrew. I think, I don't know, I just remember really enjoying this ride. But anyway, the next ride on this list is our last B&M looper. I promise, no more after this. It's the Incredible Hulk coaster at Universal's Islands of Adventure. Now, this is such a good ride, especially because that launch is really forceful. And the first half that this ride has is really good. It's whippy, it's fast, it's intense. It really hauls through it. It does not lose any speed. However, this ride is really, it's only good for half the ride because in the second half, it turns kind of meandery and it's just not as good. It throws in one inversion, but that's about it. Yeah, let's just move on. Next roller coaster on this list is finally something more unique. We have Millennium Force at Cedar Point. Millennium Force is a really fun ride. That's about it. It's tall, it's fast, it has one forceful moment, it has some good airtime, and a really good first drop. It has 2 good airtime moments. One of them I already said, it's first drop, and the second one is this random little really fast ejector speed hill at the very end of the ride, right before you hit the brake run. Yep, that's all you get, but it's still a really fun ride. We're going to the East Coast for the next roller coaster on this list, Jersey Devil Coaster.
What the Sigma?
Alright, before you click off this video for me putting Jersey Devil Coaster higher than Millennium Force, just let me explain. Well, I guess I just like the ride, there's nothing really to explain. Moving on. The next ride on this list is another kind of odd choice. It's in the same park, and we're going with Nitro. Alright, now I can actually explain the reason why I have Nitro so high. Nitro really is a really underrated ride because it has good floater airtime, and it's fun. Like, nobody ever talks about it, but the helix going into the brake run is just as forceful as I-305's turn. I think I hadn't ridden I-305s in a while, but it's just so good. It's definitely the hardest gray out I've ever experienced on a B&M coaster. Alright, we can move on now. Next roller coaster is a GCI Woody. It is Thunderhead at Dollywood. Thunderhead is nothing special, so you may be wondering, why do I have it so high? Well, Thunderhead is a really fun ride, but it doesn't do anything crazy like crazy ejector airtime or anything. It masters the out of control feeling. Like, you feel like you're gonna fly out the train the whole time, not from even airtime. It's just, I don't know what it does. It just feels out of control. At the number 17 spot, we have Sandblasting Bronco. Sandblasting Bronco is a really underrated roller coaster. I mean, it's a forceful ride. It's definitely a one-trick pony. That launch is definitely steals the show from every other part of the ride, but that launch is so good. And then later in the ride, you stop and you do it all again backwards. There's a turntable built into the station. You turn around, do it all again backwards. That backwards launch felt just as forceful as Storm Runner, and Storm Runner is a hydraulic launch coaster. Like, that launch is just wild. Next on my list, I have Copperhead Strike, located at Carowinds. The first roller coaster to make this list at my home park is really a great ride. Its hang time is so underrated. It has, honestly, pretty underrated launches. I mean, well, actually, I scratched that. It's really weak launches, but it has wild ejected airtime. That, for the ejected airtime is the reason I have this ride ranked so high. That's the only reason. So now we reach the top 15. Every roller coaster in my top 15, I consider elite and 10 out of 10 ride experiences. I would ride these all day if they were at my home park. They're just so good. And starting off the top 15, we have Magnum XL 200. I'm just going to say it straight up. There is no other roller coaster like Magnum XL 200. The airtime on this is ridiculous. It might be the world's strongest airtime. Like, I'm not even joking. The finale is where it shines. Car 1, row 3 is the magic seat on this. My first ride on it, I got the magic seat. And it just shocks me how ridiculous this airtime was. It was really just an out-of-body experience. Like, I could not believe the airtime on it. Like, I would love to have this at my home park. I would ride it over and over. At the number 14 spot, we have another GCI Woody. We have Mystic Timbers at Kings Island. Now, Mystic Timbers is a lot like Thunderhead. It really doesn't shine in any aspects, like airtime or anything. I really enjoy it because of the out-of-control nature it has. You get thrown up, but it's not necessarily airtime. I don't remember. I really need another rewrite on this. I need a rewrite on a lot of these, but I just remember being a really out-of-control experience. Like, you get tossed up and then to the side over and over, and it's just fun overall. That's the reason I like this ride. It's just a fun ride. A lot of these are just fun rides, and that's the only reason I have them so high. Mystic Timbers, it just makes you laugh. I got a rain ride in the back row on it. The rain hurt, but that's where another reason I really enjoyed it. But enough about Mystic Timbers. At the number 13 spot, we have Lightning Rod at Dollywood. Now, this ride has had a really problematic life. I rode it with the launch, and I know it's really unreliable. I saw 2-3 rollbacks in one day. Like, I saw them. That means there's probably around 5 to 10 a day, like each day. And that's terrible. This ride has had a really tough history. It went from a launch to a chain lift, and I hadn't ridden it with the chain lift, so I don't know how the experience will be, but it's a really fun ride. That's what I remember. The ejector airtime on the quad down is wild. This element is the reason I have it so high. It's just really wild getting that many ejected airtime pops while just constantly speeding up. Each hill gets better. It's in between that and El Toro's double camelbacks for my favorite airtime moment on any roller coaster. But with the ride experience being changed that much, I might not like it as much the next time I ride. That's why I need to re-ride this more than a lot of other roller coasters. Moving on, at the number 12 spot, I have Maverick at Cedar Point. Every element on Maverick is a standout. There is no bad elements. The first drop in the back row is a really intense ejector airtime moment. It's a beyond vertical drop, so it's not surprising. Then you have whippy transitions, fast-paced ejector airtime moments, multiple ejector airtime moments. Decent inversions. They're not that good, but they're good. That's about it. It's just a forceful ride. It packs a punch. that's about it. That's enough of Maverick. At the number 11 spot, we have Wildcats Revenge at Hershey Park. Wildcats Revenge is just like any other RMC. It's fast, it's intense, and it has crazy ejector airtime. The last thing that I said, the ejector airtime, that's the most true. Ejector airtime is my favorite thing on any roller coaster, and it has a lot of it. The only reason this ride's not higher is because, in my opinion, it has a lot of dead spots. Like, the step-up underflip, that element does not do anything. And then it has a couple overbanks that don't do anything either. But other than that, this ride's flawless. There's a reason some people have this ranked so high. It's just not as good, in my opinion, as other people make it out to be. It's still a really good ride though. Number 10 on my list is Kingda Ka at Six Flags Great Adventure. My list does include defunct roller coasters because there's still credits, and this is my top 25 roller coasters, so I'm making the rules, and yeah, that's why I'm including it. Kingda Ka is a really unique experience. That launch from 0 to marketed 128, it's actually around 120 miles per hour. It's something else. Like, the wind against your face in the front row is just insane. The speed, that's why I have this ride ranked so high. You feel so much speed from the launch and the top speed that you reach when you're coming down the drop and flying over that airtime hill. And let me just say, Six Flags Entertainment Corporation treated this ride so poorly. This ride deserves a much better goodbye than that, because this is the world's tallest roller coaster. Like, I don't know why they didn't even give a good goodbye to it. I know that I'm one of the only people that ranks this ride this high, but it's such a good experience, and it's so sad how this ride was treated. But anyway, now that you guys are tired of hearing me ramble about Kingda Ka's removal, let's get on to the next roller coaster. At number 9, I think, we have another Intamin hydraulic launch coaster, Storm Runner at Hershey Park. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on this ride because the video would be too long, but this ride's basically everything I said about Maverick, but you add a super powerful hydraulic launch to it. And that's why I really like this ride. The launch kind of steals the show, but it has a really good layout after it. At the number 8 spot, we have what was formerly known as I-305, what is now known as Pantherian at King's Dominion. Remember when I was talking about Nitro's Helix? This ride is famous for a gray out moment like that. But the reason I have this so much higher than Nitro is because after that moment, you have some ejector airtime, super intense snip snaps, and it's just crazy transitions. My neck was actually sore for a week after I rode this ride because how intense it is. This ride actually never slows down. It's just wild. The pacing is perfect. At the number 7 spot, we have another Giga Coaster, but this time it's less intense, Fury 325 at Carowin. This ride being at my home park allows me to know this ride super well. I've ridden this ride so many times. I've ridden it in its best and in its worst. I can tell you that this ride is not like a normal B&M coaster. It's more like something like Maverick or even I-305 that we just talked about. It's super intense and fast paced. At the number 6 spot, we have Twisted Timbers at King's Dominion. Now, let me tell you, this ride is everything that I could ever want in a roller coaster. It seems like it's designed specifically for me, because this ride, after the first drop, it's all just ejector airtime. Its first 3 real elements is 3 back-to-back ejector airtime hills. It gives a similar feeling to El Toro, like I mentioned before, the double camelbacks. It's just a great ride. I will never forget the first time I rode Twisted Timbers. This is the first time I experienced real ejector airtime. I was amazed. At the number 5 spot, now we actually have El Toro, the ride that I mentioned 2 times before in this video. Now we get to talk about it. There is no doubt in my mind that El Toro is the most intense wooden roller coaster on earth. It has some of the strongest ejector airtime I've ever felt. It's either this or Magnum XL 200s. The first 3 elements on this ride deliver thigh-crushing ejector airtime. The first drop and the first 2 camelbacks. The airtime on this actually hurts. And then you go through some track that doesn't do as much, like it's a little bit more boring, but it's still really fun because the track has some texture, so it's not exactly boring. It's kind of like floaty. Think of a B&M Hyper. You float up out of your seat. But then right after that boring moment, you're right back to flying out of your seat because the next element is really strong airtime. The rolling Thunderhead is just ridiculously powerful. It feels like your upper body separating from your lower body. And the next element's good too. It's like a Maverick like twister section before you just coast over into the brake run. That ride's so good. Now don't hate me for this next one. I have Iron Gwazi at the number 4 spot. A lot of you guys have Iron Gwazi at the number 1 spot, but let me explain. This is such a good ride. Immediately after I rode it, I had it at my number 1 spot. I put it right above Fury, but at that time I hadn't ridden as many roller coasters, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I might really need a rewrite on this to reevaluate it, because I hadn't ridden it in years, and I was pretty GP last time I rode it, but I just feel like this ride isn't as intense as a lot of you make it out to be. In each valley, it seems like it doesn't pull very much positive Gs, and it seems kind of boring, and like Wildcat's Revenge, I'll call it a dead space. Like, leading up to the death roll, I know the death roll is a great element, but there's a lot of unused track, and it's kind of boring in my opinion. That's why I have this ride so low. But I'm not going to deny that this ride has a bunch of really great moments. The next coaster on this list is really special because it's my 100th credit. It's Sky Rush at Hershey Park. You know, we're at that point on the list where any of these roller coasters could be my number 1, and that's really true with Sky Rush because this ride is really intense. It's a lot like I-305 for that part. It has some of the most intense ejector airtime, just like El Toro. A lot of these roller coasters kind of make connections to each other with how, like, I enjoy them. I want ejected airtime with extreme intensity. And Sky Rush masters that. Its first drop is something else. In the back row, you get absolutely launched out your seat. Every element on this ride is a world-class element. You get thrown side to side, up and down. It's just ridiculous how amazing this ride is. I really wish I could put it higher, but there's a couple more roller coasters that I feel like are a better ride, like Air Force One at Fun Spot Atlanta. I don't understand why such a world-class roller coaster is at basically a mini golf course. This roller coaster was put on a mini golf course. I don't understand. The reason I have this roller coaster so high is because how much of a variety it has. And the reason I like its variety is because it's mostly ejector airtime. It has so many ejector airtime moments, whippy transitions, and floaty inversions. This might very well be the world's best roller coaster, but the only reason I have this other roller coaster higher is because it's a much longer ride. I have the one and only Steel Vengeance as my number 1 coaster. This is the reason Cedar Point is my favorite park. It has so many good rides. I think I had 4 or 5 roller coasters in my top 25 at this one park. But Steel Vengeance is the king of all of them. It really is the GOAT of roller coasters. It has so many ejector airtime moments like Air Force One, but it's like 3 times the length or something like that. And it's 200 feet tall, RMC Hyper Hybrid. This roller coaster is just truly the best. It just goes on forever with very little dead space. There's only like 2 elements that don't do much for me, but that's really easy to look past when you have so many other elements that hit every time. This ride has it all, from sustained ejector to quick pops to high speeds to fast whippy transitions. There is no question in my mind that this is the world's best roller coaster for now. I might need some rewrites on some other things, but I really do think that nothing will beat Steel Vengeance because this ride is a powerhouse from start to finish. It's such a long ride, and I just believe Cedar Point and RMC did a great job with this creation. It's just a really great ride overall. Alright, so there you guys go. I know this was a longer video. It's definitely probably the highest quality full video I've ever made. But that's just a wrap on my top 25 roller coasters. If you guys enjoyed this video, please like, because this was a lot of work, and my phone battery is almost dead, so I just gotta wrap it up, I guess. Anyway, yeah. If you guys enjoyed this video, remember to like, subscribe if you like the content, and I'll see you guys next time.